greatest sports debate show on the internet.
I just want to make this statement out front. I think the NBA playoffs so far have been a disaster.
Championship rings. Starring Brandon Williams.
NBA has its next Bill and Dean. They reside in Oklahoma City, and their name is the Thunder.
And Josh Ungar.
James Harden is, when you get to a Game 6 or Game 7, it's like he's allergic. I mean, we have countless examples. He's like a bad poker hand. He folds.
Begins now.
And we are live. It is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Welcome to episode 121 of Championship Rings. As always, I'm Brandon Lewis, the host of Brandon's World. That is Josh Ungar, Ungar to the Max, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. And Josh, the NBA playoffs have reached the second round, and we have a rematch of the 2017 World Series taking place this week.
Yes, we do.
All right, well, we're going to start off with, last week on the show, we both sort of glanced over the Celtics-Sixers series, and we both said, even though Joel Embiid came back, Boston should win tonight. And then they proceeded to not win a single game the rest of the series.
They became way too three-pointer happy. They are the ultimate, you live by the three, you die by the three team. And Jaylen Brown, I don't know if you heard about this, he went on his Twitch stream like the day after the game, and he said something along the lines of like, this was my favorite season. I don't know.
I did hear about this, yep.
And I was like, how can you say that? You just blew a 3-1 series lead in the first round. You won a championship back just 2 years ago where you were the finals MVP. I don't get it.
You know what it tells me? It's the same thing about every player in every sport, Josh, whether we like it or not. Most players, even the great ones, are selfish. This was the year where Jaylen Brown was the number one option. He had the ball the most. He scored the most points of his career. That's why it's his favorite season. It's not about winning. It's about what numbers can I put up to potentially have a better contract down the line.
He's already making over $300 million, though.
And guess what? Money talks. Talk to a company known as TKO that's doing everything in their power right now to cut costs so they can make more money. When Ari Emanuel made $60 million last year. It doesn't matter how much money you make. People want money.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a case of giving the 76ers credit or if it's, taking shots at the Celtics.
I think this is 100% all on the Boston Celtics. And I give the Sixers all the credit in the world for fighting and not giving up. But the Celtics just became the second team in the NBA history to miss the most amount of threes. They only trailed that Houston Rockets Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors in 2018 by 1-3. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it would have mattered if Jason Tatum played in Game 7 or not. I thought going into Game 7, and I texted you this on Saturday, that, sometimes when a player is injured, you don't want them playing it in a do-or-die game because they could overcompensate, or maybe you rely on Tatum and something bad happens to him. So I don't fault the Celtics for not playing him. They were the better team in this series. They should have been. And like you said, it is the ultimate live and die by the three, and they died. And ultimately, I do think this could be the best thing to happen to the Boston Celtics because it may force them to change their style of play.
It wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if Joe Mazzulla is on the hot seat.
Well, here's the question. Is it a Joe Mazzulla question of the analytics, or is it an organizational question? Because did you know they shot a century more, 100 more three-pointers in the series than the Philadelphia 76ers?
No, I did not realize that. And I think I read that when they were only down 1 in the final 6 minutes or so, they shot 16
Yes.
three-pointers or something
Instead
like
of
that.
going to the basket. And there's one of the plays that's jarring where Jaylen Brown is going up the floor, and they have a couple big men running to the basket, and they kick it out to Pritchard for a free that doesn't go down. Listen, this is who the Celtics are. They lived and died by it. I think Joe Mazzulla is a good coach. I think he's a great regular season coach. And I know everybody, including yourself, 2 years ago said that Boston had one of the easiest paths to the championship ever. And I get it. But you look at that team, and they had Kristaps Porzingis. They had Al Horford. They had Sam Hauser. Um,
Holiday.
Drew Holiday. They had a lot of guys, and we talked about it on the air. Remember what I kept saying during that championship run? I said if each of their 8 or 9 guys made 2 threes a game, that's how they won the games, and it was almost unbeatable. They didn't have those guys this time, and I think it's a little bit unfair to put it on Joe Mazzulla when I think collectively the Brad Stevens and the regime, I think it's all an organizational thing.
But here's the thing. Couldn't Joe Mazzulla have made a coaching change and said, hey, the three-pointers aren't falling. Let's stop taking so many.
Well, here's the issue. When you've done that for the past 4 years and that's all you know, it's hard to get out of that habit.
But, again, like we said, the Celtics shot multiple three-pointers down the stretch when they were only down 1. Jaylen Brown, that is not your game. I get it. You can.
Well, Jaylen Brown thinks that's his game.
Yeah, but his game is driving to the basket, attacking the rim.
What basket? The Celtics don't drive to the basket. They don't attack the rim. They haven't done it in 4 years. That's my point. The Celtics don't take a mid-range jumper. They will take a free or they will take an easy dunk. They don't attack the basket. Actually, statistically, out of the last 3 years, the year that they won the championship, this year, and then the year a couple years ago with Ime Udoka, when they won the East and they got to the championship against Golden State, that team is up there for the 4th most percentage of shooting threes in a playoff series. So it's not a Joe Mazzulla thing. It is a Boston Celtic analytically driven narrative.
I feel like from what we've seen of Jaylen Brown, his game is more driving to the basket, attacking the rim.
Well, it was until about 4 years ago, until, again, they decided to forget the mid-range jumper. And I don't know what it is. And, with this second apron, and we talked about it when they did it last year, when Tatum got hurt, we said, they're going to have to make some big boy decisions. Now the question is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think it's on the board. Do you talk about potentially splitting up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
I don't know. I was really hoping, as much as if it wasn't going to be us in the finals, I was hoping for a Celtics Thunder or Celtics Spurs NBA Finals, because I wanted to see Jaylen Brown go against SGA, or Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum go against Wemby and the rest of the crew for San Antonio.
See, there's a reason why I said that I did not have the Boston Celtics coming out of the Eastern Conference, and I disagreed with you that would be one of the matchups I wanted. I did not want to see the Celtics in the finals because I think what we saw in this series is true. The Celtics are boring, and they don't do anything else, and I knew what I was going to get out of the Celtics out of every game. You didn't even have to watch a Celtics game. You look at the box score. If they shot the three well, they won. If they didn't, they lose. It was as simple as that.
I don't know why they made this philosophy change, honestly. Is it because of the new ownership they're under? Is it something?
Well, that started, before the new ownership.
Okay, so it's not the new ownership. I don't think it really has anything to do with Brad Stevens.
My guess is their analytical department said a 3 is better than 2, and that's what they went with.
And honestly, and I know we'll get into the Denver Nuggets here in a minute, but it's honestly looking like their championship and Denver's were both extremely fluky.
Well, is it fluky, or was that just the new age of the NBA? Because outside of Oklahoma City, we have not seen a team, again, the last 7 years to make it back to the conference finals.
Boston does have a track record of making it to the conference finals. I will give them that.
But not since they won the championship.
That's true.
All right, well, speaking of the team that did advance, the Sixers, last night at halftime, this thing was over. They completely got outplayed by the Knicks, who I know when they were down 2-1, everybody was saying the Knicks are in trouble. And I said, wait a minute. They watched those 2 games by a combined total of 2 points. And they go out, they blow the Hawks out in game 4 at Atlanta. They blow them out in game 5 in New York. And then game 6 was over 2 minutes in. The Knicks, to me, Josh, look like the best team in the East.
I know everybody wanted that rematch between the Knicks and the Celtics. I think the Knicks probably wanted the Celtics. But honestly, I would say the 76ers are the more favorable matchup for them. I know they don't really have anybody that can match up with Joel Embiid, but by the same token, I don't feel like, Philly has anybody in matchup with Jalen Brunson, and he put that on full display last night.
Well, I don't disagree a little with that. I mean, they have Grimes who they can throw him off the bench. They have a bunch of scoring that can offset Jalen Brunson, especially if Cat is not playing up to his expectations. Paul George is giving you good minutes. VJ Edgecombe has showed he's not afraid. He had a big game 7 as a rookie in that spot. And obviously what Tyrese Maxey brings again as a scorer. So that's what, to me, it comes down to for Philly is...
I'm talking about defensively when the Knicks are on offense.
I get that, but you could throw Paul George at him. You can throw Grimes at him. Maxey's a willing defender. So I think they have guys that can stop Brunson. I agree the Knicks don't have anybody to slow down Joel Embiid, but the problem is Joel Embiid going to last off 7 games?
I don't think so. It's a miracle he was able to stay in for game 7 against Boston, honestly. But, I know we'll get more into Cavs Pistons here shortly, and game 1 tips off tonight for that. But I love these 2 second-round series for the Eastern Conference. It's 2 rivalries. One that's been reignited and one that's, I think we just saw this series, last year?
Your microphone's popping again, Josh.
Huh. Okay.
Just to let you know. But yeah, I mean, these are 4 storied franchises, right? Pistons, Cavs, Knicks, Sixers. The Cavs obviously have not been there with this iteration. They have not been to the finals since 2018. Detroit, I believe it's been 04 since they last won the championship.
Correct.
Knicks was 2000 when they made the finals, and Philly was 2001 with Allen Iverson against those Lakers teams.
Yes. But didn't Philly and New York just play each other in the first round last year?
So it was 2 years ago that they played.
Right. Because last year was Detroit, New York. You're
right.
Right.
And Embiid and Cat got into it a little bit, and the Knicks obviously ended up prevailing in that series.
In 6.
But Philly did not have Tyrese Maxey.
No, Tyrese Maxey was in that series.
Oh, you're right. That was his rookie year, right? Yeah.
Because he hit that crazy, nearly half-court shot.
The guy they didn't have was Paul George, I believe. He was still with the Clippers.
I think you're right.
So, I mean, that could play a little bit. I mean, obviously the Knicks didn't have Mikal Bridges either. The one thing everybody criticized the Knicks after they let go Tom Thibodeau and Adam Mike Brown. And I thought it was a good move at the time because I said Tom Thibodeau doesn't know offense. And Mike Brown has clearly learned offense a little bit from his time in Golden State and Sacramento. Mike Brown is looks like he's adjusting on the fly in these playoffs. And the Knicks, you may argue that they may peak early, but they to me look like a team that's playing with confidence, and they are a team that's filled with depth. The only thing that I saw Philadelphia strategically do last night that I thought could maybe in a close game give the Knicks problems is, and I think it's more so when they go back to Philadelphia, is the Hacker Robinson.
Yeah. I feel like I want this series to go to a game 6 or a game 7, but it feels like the Knicks are going to win it in 5.
See, the Knicks are a team, and we're going to get to the Cavs here in a second. I feel like they're the same team where they just play with their food and they don't put teams away. Like, I fully expect the Knicks to win the series, but I could see Philadelphia winning tomorrow night. I absolutely could, because the Knicks are going to give you a clunker here or there.
Yeah, but, like, do I trust Philadelphia? Yes, they just came back from down 3-1. I get it. But do I trust them against a much tougher New York team? I'm not sure.
Well, here's the other thing, and this is sort of a off-grid topic, if you will. I think you can start making the case, Josh, that NBA home court advantage does not matter as much as it used to.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because you look at the Orlando-Cleveland series from a couple years ago, and this year's first round series between the Cavs and the Raptors, the home team won every game.
Correct, but those are the only two series where that happened.
That's true, yes.
You look at every other series. I mean, even last night, we're going to get to Minnesota here in a second. They stole game 1 in San Antonio. And you look at the Knicks, right? They were down 2-1. They lost home court advantage, and they won game 4 in Atlanta, and they won game 6 in Atlanta, right? The Rockets, they win game 3 in Houston, but they lose game 5 back in LA. Minnesota, Denver, obviously Minnesota steals game 2 in that series, and every other game from that point on went home court. But even Detroit, Orlando, Orlando at home in game 6 has 4 for 34 and one of the worst shooting outs in the history of basketball, literally, or they advance.
And maybe if Franz Wagner was healthy, Orlando would have won that series, and Jamal Mosley would still be their head coach.
And it's kind of weird, right? Jamal Mosley goes from fired to not fired, back to fired in about the span of 10 days.
Yes. But, of course, tonight is game 1 from Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. No, I will not say it the way their PA announcer does. I love that this rivalry has been reignited. Of course, we have played the Pistons, I believe, 4 previous times in the postseason. 2006,
06, 07, 09, 16. I don't know if there's any more at the top of my head.
And we are 3-1 against them because we lost in 06.
Yeah, that 06 loss was a game 7, by the way, as well.
We beat them in 07 in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's, of course, the series where LeBron scored the Cavs' final 25 points, I think it was, in game 5.
In game 5, and then in game 6, the coming out party of one Daniel Booby Gibson.
Yes. And then, of course, we just were outclassed against the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals. And then in 09, that was the first round series. Of course, we ended up losing to the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. And we all know what happened in 2016. Yeah, it is crazy that Cleveland does not have an NHL team. But no, I love that like I said, I love that this rivalry is reignited. The two teams split the regular season series, each winning 1 game on their home court, each winning 1 game on the opposing team's court. Both teams are coming off of 7-game series. With the Pistons, they had to come back from down 3-1 to beat the Magic. The Cavs had to survive one of the craziest shots I've ever seen by R.J. Barrett in game 6
They also had to survive being tied at halftime of a game 7 against clearly an inferior team. Because I'm sorry, if you watch that third quarter on Sunday, my thought was, why couldn't we have done this earlier? Like, come on. Like, why do the Cavs play with their food so much? The Cavs do not come out ready to play in the first quarter at all. Donovan Mitchell has not been good in these playoffs at all. For Detroit, it took a game 7 great performance from Tobias Harris to get them over the hump against Orlando. And it took a historic bad shooting performance of the Magic in game 6 to even get to a game 7. My point is, neither of these two teams should feel good about the way they played in round 1 at all. And this series is going to be a battle of which coach can outcoach the worser coach. Because one coach can't coach his way out of a wet paper bag, and another coach can't coach his way out of a paper bag at all.
I do find it interesting that we trade for Keon Ellis near the trade deadline, and we didn't use him at all in the Toronto series. I hope we use him in this series. I know he's a bit smaller, and Cade likes to play bully ball, but I'd like to see that matchup. I feel like that's part of the reason why we traded for Keon Ellis was for his defensive prowess, right?
Well, you would think, because James Harden and Donovan Mitchell certainly don't match up with Cade Cunningham defensively.
I would think we're probably going to put Dean Wade on Cade.
Oh God, if I have to see 5 more minutes of Dean Wade play basketball, I might go throw up. The guy's been terrible. He's been flat out terrible. I would start Sam Merrill. I actually thought Jared Allen and Sam Merrill were probably the 2 best Cavs in that Toronto series.
The one guy I don't want to see get a lot of minutes, I know he had a big impact in Game 7, but it just feels like he's a defensive liability. Max Strus.
I mean, Strus on the road is bad. At home, he's good. That's the thing about Strus. He's your typical role player. You know what you're going to get out of Strus. Tonight and Thursday, he's going to be terrible.
But what I do like about facing Toronto in round 1, they brought a level of physicality that, sure, Detroit's going to bring another level of physicality. I get it.
Detroit just wants to fight. Detroit's a bunch of fake tough guys. Isaiah Stewart's a fake tough guy. He thinks he's tough. Wait till he gets punched in the face. Then we'll see what really happens.
But I do think that Toronto was a good preparation for Detroit. But okay, proved me wrong in Game 7. I'll give him that. But now we're into the second round. Can he do it again? I don't know.
Do you agree with me? I think the Cavs are the better team. I'm not going to say superior team, but I think overall the Cavs are the better team.
On paper, sure.
Yes, that's my point, which means technically on paper the Cavs should win this series. If we go back to Cleveland 1-1, we should finish this thing in 6 games. That's the way I look at it. I think there's going to be, I think personally, I think we lose tonight. I think it's a physical game. I think it's a game that comes down to the wire. I think Detroit gets their bounces at home. I don't think Donovan Mitchell plays well because I've seen no evidence in these playoffs that he is going to play well. I think James Harden has a massively disappointing game tonight, and I could see anywhere from like a 5 to 10 point Detroit victory, and then I think we do steal game 2.
Detroit, last I saw, was a 3.5 point favorite.
I think Detroit probably covers tonight. I hope I'm wrong, but it's funny. I did not have a good feeling going into game 7, and it was tied at halftime, and then the Cavs went on that 38-16 run or whatever it was in the third quarter.
Jared Allen looked great.
Well, Jared Allen had a double-double in the third quarter alone. And Toronto looked like a team that, without Brandon Ingram, had enough. And they're a young team, and they just folded the same way the Orlando Magic did, because you can make a case. Pablo Banchero and Scotty Barnes have had very similar careers so far. And this is big boy basketball now, and which team is going to step up? And for the Cavs, it should be extra motivation, because not all, but most of those players did play under J.B. Bickerstaff.
Yes. And all reports said the Cavs wanted to be the number 4 seed so they could face Detroit in round 2. I think that's going to give the Pistons extra motivation as well.
I got another question for you. Are you concerned about Evan Mobley?
In this series, yes.
I'm concerned about him in general. Evan Mobley should be, at this point, in my opinion, a top 10 player in the NBA, and he's not even close.
I would agree with you on that.
Let's be honest. Jared Allen, and I was defending Jared Allen for years. When everybody in this town said, you got to trade Jared Allen, Evan Mobley's going to be great. He's going to be a 5, get rid of Jared Allen. I said, no. I said, you guys are missing the point. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley may not be great together, but Evan Mobley is not a 5.
No, Evan Mobley is definitely not a 5.
Excuse me.
But I think they can play well together, but it seems like when we have just one of them on the floor, they play better.
If I'm the Cavs, the strategy is going to be, once let Cade Cunningham get his, don't let the other guys score. Because if they get 30 from Tobias Harris, then you lose.
Yeah, because the knock on Detroit all season has been that Cade's their primary scorer, and then who is there? Like, last season, they had Malik Beasley. They had others who could be that secondary scorer. They don't really have that this season.
Correct. So let's move to the West now. Before we get to the second round matchups, let's talk a little bit about a team who a couple of years ago, I said that their championship window was not only wide open, but I said they had the ingredients to potentially be the next dynasty in the NBA. And that take aged like spoiled milk ever since the T-Wolves went on the road in Ball Arena in Game 7 2 years ago, shocked the Nuggets. Then last year they go on in 7 games to beat the Clippers. Then they lose in 7 games to OKC. And this year in Game 6, down 3-2 with what is supposed to be the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. There's no other way to say it. Nikola Jokic came out flat. Jamal Murray came out flat with only 8 points. And Denver led the likes of Jane McDaniels and Julius Randle and Naz Reid completely dominate them and win the series. And to me, yeah, Denver's championship window may be closed.
Like I said earlier, I think their championship run in 2023 was a fluke. They were lucky.
Well, the thing about that year was Jamal Murray was healthy for the first time in a couple of years in the playoffs. And at that time, Nikola Jokic was easily the best big in basketball. And they had Aaron Gordon. They had a young Christian Braun. They had a Bruce Brown. They had a bunch of switchable wings that they could throw at guys. You know, Michael Porter was healthy. They had a reliable scorer. And they didn't have that over the next 2.5 years.
Right. But also, think about who they played in the NBA Finals. A number 8 seed.
That is correct. I'll give you that.
They would have played Boston if Jason Tatum had been healthy, possibly for that Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Well, that would have taken Boston also overcoming a 3-0 lead.
Which Boston came storming back to even force a Game 7.
Correct, they did, but no team in NBA history has ever forced a 3-0 comeback.
True. I think Boston would have completed that comeback if Jason Tatum hadn't sprained his ankle in Game 7.
Well, but we don't know. That's not fair. And it's not like Miami was chumps. I mean, Miami was not your typical 8 seed. I would argue very similar to the Sixers this year. Like, if you remember, Miami lost their first play-in tournament game, and then they take out the Bucks with Giannis or not. They take out Milwaukee. And they did take down, for the most part, a healthy Boston Celtics team.
Yeah, and I think they took down the Knicks in the second round, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, remember, it was Gabe Vincent. It was our guy, Max Strus. It was Caleb Martin. Remember they had those 4 guys who just wouldn't miss from 3?
Wasn't Duncan Robinson on that team?
Duncan Robinson was the other guy, along with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So let's not act like, the Heat weren't a real team.
I know, but they weren't like a legit threat, I didn't think.
Well, they did
but-
win a game in the finals, so you can't say they weren't a legit threat. And a couple of those games, over Game 4 came down to the wire.
Game 5 did for the most part, but for the most part, I don't remember ever thinking, oh yeah, Miami's possibly going to actually win this series.
That's fair. I guess the point I'm making is Denver had their championship window. Now, I think Jokic is on the Giannis Antetokounmpo path, and I talked about this last week. They both have had multiple finals MVPs. They both have won a championship. They both then were favorites to win their back-to-back. They get beat in the second round, and their team deteriorates ever since. And I tweeted it at you, and I said it last week on the show. I said Nikola Jokic's legacy as being the best player in basketball was on the line in this series. And the fact that he let that happen to him, not only in Game 4 in Minnesota when Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo went down for the season, but then on top of that, DeSumo doesn't even play in Game 6. And Minnesota handily beats Denver. Nikola Jokic's title as best player in the world has been stripped.
I would agree with you on that. Right now, I would say is vacant.
Well, I would say it resides in San Antonio, Texas. And I know they lost last night, but Victor Wembanyama, with the most blocks in the history of an NBA playoff game with 12. You could say some of them are goaltenders. I don't care. Okay.
0 for 8 from three-point range, though. Why are you shooting that many three-pointers?
Why are the Celtics shooting that many three-pointers? I can answer with the same answer. It's an analytical thing. Joel Embiid shoots as much three-pointers as well. And this, to me, it is showing the Spurs an experience. It was the one thing I was worried about coming into the playoffs, which I said, would the Spurs an experience catch up to them? And the one thing when you look at this T-Wolves team, which let's face it, Minnesota may be the most underrated team in basketball these last 3 years, especially if they get to the Western Conference Finals once again, is that Anthony Edwards basically said, shoot me up, I'm going to play, and he played pretty decently.
The dude is straight up Wolverine.
Well, you can't say that when he's had back-to-back terrible conference finals.
Yeah, but he hyperextends his knee, and 9 days after that, he's back and doing that.
Well, he's also young. He's not old. I mean, he should be able to do that at age 23. It's not like he, ruptured an Achilles tendon.
I know, but with a hyperextension, that type of injury usually keeps you out like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, but I mean, look at Austin Reeves. He was projected to be out past the first round, and he was back by Game 4 of the first round. People were saying Luka was going to be back before him, and Reeves is back before Luka is.
Yeah, but in terms of this series, it's hard to say whether the Spurs are in trouble or not. I still think they can win this series.
I think they can, but I think their life now is way more difficult. If they would have won last night, you could avoid losing Game 2. Now, for the first time, they are in a must-win situation. Because even Portland, right, when it was Game 3 and they made that comeback, that was without Wemby. Like, nobody expected them to win that game without Wemby. We still expected them to win the series. But it was like, okay, if you lose Game 3 without Wemby, we understand. You can't go down 0-2.
No. And I think with Minnesota, they can throw different bodies at Wemby.
Yep.
It's not like with Denver where they can basically only throw Jokic at or Gobert. You know what I mean? No,
I agree. And the thing is, like I said, the Spurs are a young team, and last night, they showed their battle wounds. And if Anthony Edwards can get healthier, I think Minnesota will only get more dangerous. And again, I know Minnesota lost DiVincenzo, but if Ant's healthy, you've still got Mike Conley, you got Ant, you got DeSumo, who should be back. You have Gobert, you have Naz Reid.
Julius Randle.
They have a bunch of glue guys. They're not only physical, but they're great.
And Jaden McDaniels.
I mentioned Jane McDaniels, I believe.
Oh,
but
yeah. No, on that note, I like that you brought up a lot of those guys because you got the likes of McDaniels, you got DeSumo, Julius Randle. Minnesota's a big team.
You can make a case that next to Oklahoma City, they are the deepest team in basketball.
Yeah, and a lot of their forwards and guards are like at least 6'4". Some of them are 6'9".
Yep.
So for some of the Spurs guards and forwards like a Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Champagnie, that size that Minnesota can throw at you is going to make life challenging. I like that San Antonio didn't call the timeout on the final possession. I know they hot potatoed the ball a little bit, but still, Champagnie got a great look from 3-point range.
He did. He got a great look. Now, obviously, there's questions about should that ball go to Wemby or not. I'm not going to kill Wemby for that. I think there was a little bit of confusion about are we going to call timeout or not. I like the fact that they didn't call timeout because he did get a good look, though I would have liked the shot to go up a little bit quicker because at least I'm going to give myself a chance to tie the game. I didn't like that it took down to 2 seconds for them to get the shot. Even though it was a good look, you're begging for that shot to go in at that point instead of trying to at least go for the tie and get yourself to overtime.
Yeah. I honestly thought this series would go to at least a game 6. You know, this is another series where I'm like, could it go to a game 7?
So going in, I said if Anthony Edwards did not play, I thought San Antonio was going to dog walk these guys and win in 5. The same way I thought, if he didn't play in the Denver series. Why I picked Denver? Because I said Minnesota's a bad matchup for Denver, but I didn't know about Ant. So right now I think it goes 7.
Okay.
And as we've seen, as we talked about, historically, I think now with the 2 game 7s, I think the road team though is still like 10-9 in the last 19 game 7s.
Yeah. And the NBA is going to be like, look, we got 3 game 7s in the first round. And they'll use that to justify keeping the first round at 7 as a best of 7. No.
I'll tell you this, there's a real possibility that we already talked about Knicks Sixers. Cavs Pistons could go 7 as well. We could have the most game 7s that we've ever had.
Yeah.
But one that will not go 7 games, I'm pretty sure about, is the Lakers Thunder. The Thunder are favored by 15.5 points tonight, which is the most that LeBron has ever been an underdog. If the Lakers win this series, or not even the series, I should say, if the Lakers win a game, it will be viewed as a massive accomplishment. I talked about this even when they had Luka and Austin Reeves, and they both went down in that game in OKC a couple weeks ago. Like, they didn't even look close. The Lakers are an old team. They're not athletic. The Thunder are a young team, and they are athletic. The only way I can see OKC even losing one single game in this series is if they go Boston Celtic-esque from 3 and just have a really cold shooting night.
Which you don't really see them shoot a lot of 3-pointers.
No, you don't.
They're like, nope, we're going straight at you. We're coming and we're attacking the rim.
Boy, I'll tell you what, though. You look at the Western side, OKC is going to be the first team to make the conference finals that won the championship the previous year since the 2019 Warriors. Whoever they play, which I think I would personally admit, I want it to be the Spurs because I want to see Wemby and SGA go at it for that title of best player in the world. We've seen Minnesota over the last couple of years, go down, to Dallas 2 years ago and then to OKC last year. Minnesota OKC would be a good series. We'll see if Ant can get revenge. I kind of feel like OKC, though, kind of showed their dominance against Minnesota last year. I think OKC right now should be favored to get back to the finals.
I think OKC should be the overall favorite, not just to get back to the finals, but
No,
to repeat.
that's a good point because I'll be honest with you, the NBA champion's coming out of the Western Conference, which is why it's hard for me to get excited about the Cavs because I'm like, do I even want to make the finals? Because it's going to be 4 games of watching my team get absolutely annihilated.
OKC is just that good. And I know you said on
Well,
the
it's
show.
not just OKC, whoever, San Antonio, if Minnesota gets out of the West, I'll pick them over any team in the East right now.
I would actually pick the Cavs over Minnesota now.
I would not at all. I think Minnesota would dog walk us with their mentality against our soft as hell. Maybe we grow up against the Pistons and the Raptors. I don't know. I think Rudy Gobert would take Jared Allen and Evan Mobley to the shadow realm.
I'm not laughing because I think you're wrong. I was laughing more so because of the way you said it.
Yeah.
But it would be a good match if Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards.
Well, that's the thing. Donovan Mitchell thinks he's Dwayne Wade. He's not Dwayne Wade yet.
No. Because Dwayne Wade won a championship in his 3rd year, I think it was.
Yeah, it would be his 3rd year because they came out the same year and LeBron got to the finals in year 4. Which, to go back a little bit on the Wemby thing, and I know we're sort of switching back and forth, but Wemby is sort of on the LeBron track right now, which is year 3, LeBron got to the playoffs for the first time, loses to that Pistons team in 7 games. Year 4, he gets to the finals. Wemby could very well do that.
Yeah. And maybe we were all crowning San Antonio too early. Because remember, like we were all saying, San Antonio, I'm not saying you specifically when I say we. I know I was saying, like, San Antonio's going to win it all this year.
Well, I was saying San Antonio was going to win it all, and I don't think it's crowning them too early if they were the number 2 seed in the West. And if they even get to the conference finals, I don't think that's crowning a team too early if they were to lose, because we've said, hey, they're a Final Four team. They got a shot at the title.
And yet, who knows if they make it out of this series?
Well, and if they don't, it's like, okay, they lost to a Minnesota team who, by the way, I wanted to bring this up real quick because did you hear what Chris Finch said that his players told him about the playoffs?
No.
His players reportedly told him, we don't give a bleep about the regular season. Put us at whatever seed, rest us, we don't care, coach. We're going to try harder in the playoffs. And look what that is. So it goes back to, again, the Knicks were the 3 seed in the East. It can be possible that the number 1 and number 2 seed in the East don't even make the conference finals. So my point being is over the past couple of years, the regular season in the NBA has been diluted. And this year, I think even more by the tanking issue, if you want to call it that. So how much of the regular season are we going to take into effect? Is this just the new NBA? Or like, should we be surprised that a 6 seed is in the conference finals? Or should it be like, yeah, they're the 6 seed in a really good Western Conference?
True. I know we have to get to Dodgers asterisks here shortly, but I want to bring something up with you. Because ever since this Cavs-Pistons series got set, this question has been nagging at me. Why is it that the Guardians and the Tigers are in the same division, the American League Central? The Cavaliers and the Pistons are in the same division, the Central Division in the Eastern Conference. But the Browns and the Lions are not in the same division.
I don't have an answer for you. When they did the realignment in the NFL, they put the Lions in the NFC, they put the Browns in the AFC. They're in the same part of the country.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't make sense because, like, again, the Guardians.
I can make a case, though, that the Reds not being in the AL Central then doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I'll take it a step further. Like, the Guardians and the White Sox are both in the same division. The Cavaliers and the Bulls are in this same division. Yet the Browns and the Bears are not in the same division.
Well, I think it comes down to math. There's only 4 teams you can put in each division. And so different leagues, obviously, different priorities.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, if Cleveland had an NHL team, I would want them in the same division as the Detroit Red Wings.
And the Chicago Blackhawks, I think
Yeah.
that would make sense. But for the longest time in the NHL, the Blackhawks and Red Wings were in the Western Conference. So
Right. And the Blackhawks are still in the Western Conference.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought when they did the realignment, Chicago did move to the East.
No, Detroit moved to the Eastern Conference. Chicago remains in the West.
Well, there you go. It's different leagues have different priorities.
It really doesn't make sense to me. And I know that's one of those questions I didn't think anybody you could actually answer it, but it's one of those things that's like doesn't make sense to me. It's one of those things that you know me long enough. These are the types of questions that float around in my head sometimes.
I know you'll be examining the NFL schedule when it releases in 2 weeks, tooth nail by tooth nail.
Oh, I know. I already put out a video with my first 4 weeks for the predictions for the Cleveland Browns. And just to review that, I said week 1 at the Tennessee Titans, week 2 home against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football because that's Kevin Stefanski's return to Cleveland. Week 3 at the New York Jets and week 4 at the New York Giants. I think we do the New Jersey 2-step.
Well, we will obviously review that in a couple of weeks when the official schedule comes out. But the Houston Astros used to be in the National League. Then in 2017, baseball said, why do we have 6 teams in the NL Central and 4 teams in the AL West? Let's move the Astros over to the American League West, which started then with the Astros making 7 straight ALCSs, along with the 2017 World Series, where they banged on the trash cans and beat the LA Dodgers in 7 games. And now they are clashing tonight in that World Series rematch in Houston, with the Dodgers winning last night.
Yes. I know it's been almost 10 years since that World Series.
That's wild to think about.
I know. Many of the players from those teams are not there. Obviously, we have fresh faces. Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts are all with the Dodgers now. We have Yordan Alvarez. I'm trying to think. Yandy Diaz. Yandy Diaz is not with the Asterisks. It's Jeremy Pena. There we go. And there's others. But you still have a couple of the main players, primarily on Houston's side. Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa. Correa, of course, got traded back to Houston last season. Before that, he was with Minnesota. But for me, it feels like there's still that hostility there whenever these two teams play.
Yeah, I don't feel like that this year because the Astros are bad. And it looks like that their run is over. They're trying to rebuild. They're 14-22 right now. Weirdly, the A's are actually more competitive right now than Houston is. And the Dodgers, let's just face it, they don't care about the regular season at all. It's all about the postseason. It's all about if they can go back to back to back. Shohei Ohtani is in a little bit of a slump. He has not had a home run in over a month, even though he's been dominating on the mound. I know his goal this year was more pitching because he wants to win another Cy Young award. And the Dodgers are the better team. I mean, even if Houston takes 2 out of 3, that's baseball. Anybody can win on any given night. And it does feel like that for the most part, the Astros era of dominance is over, which is why this rivalry does not mean as much to me. Whereas like a Dodgers-Padres rivalry, and I know that they're in the same division, but we talked about this before. That is the new Yankees-Red Sox. It is the new biggest rivalry in baseball to me.
Yes. The pitching matchup tonight, by the way, is Shohei Ohtani against Peter Lambert.
Well, there you go. Ohtani's going to start tonight, and he is one of those guys that obviously was not on the Dodgers in 2017.
Correct. But, if it were up to me, Altuve would have been stripped of his 2017 MVP. I would have suspended him, Correa, and George Springer all for the 2018 season, and Houston would have been stripped of their 2017 championship. Rob Manfred was way too soft with his punishment for them. Didn't he call the World Series trophy just a piece of metal?
I believe at one time, yes, he did. But the funny part about what you're saying is, in my opinion, and I've said this, I'm not defending the Houston Astros, as you call them, because they did cheat blatantly. But baseball's always been the sport of cheating. I mean, it goes all the way back to the White Sox were starting to complain about James Karinchak when he had tar. That's when they started banning tar, because they were so mad that James Karinchak was striking out every pitcher on the White Sox. I mean, baseball has always been steroids, tar. Baseball's in a sport where you don't really care about cheating unless it's obvious, and Houston got caught.
Yeah. I thought when you brought up the White Sox, I thought you were going to mention the whole Black Sox scandal.
Well, that's a whole scandal in its own. That's like way back before basically our parents' time. So
that's what I thought you were going to mention. But yeah, we do have 10 minutes before tip-off between the Cavaliers and the Pistons, which that game is airing only on Peacock, which is freaking stupid.
Get your little birdie out on your little streaming device, and Spurs T-Wolves also last night was a Peacock exclusive, and the game on broadcast television was over by halftime. So great scheduling, NBA, because I'm sure everybody's going to want to watch the Thunder knock the Lakers off by 30 tonight. And I don't even know what time that game starts, 9:30 or 10. But I can't keep up with these West Coast playoff games. It was way too late for me, Josh.
I agree with you. We also have game 2 of what I believe is the Stanley Cup champion, or Stanley Cup final, although it's the second round matchup. Minnesota Wild, Colorado Avalanche. Did you see the score of game 1?
I did not.
9-6.
Who won? Colorado did, correct? I think I saw that. Yep.
Colorado. And we also have the NHL draft lottery tonight to see who gets the number 1 pick.
Well, at least they put it in prime time instead of the NBA, who's putting it on Mother's Day at 3:00 in the afternoon, like anybody's going to watch it.
Yeah, I don't really care about the NBA draft lottery, because I wouldn't say there's that one guy that you're like, oh, we have to get him.
Oh, no, I disagree. There's like 13 great players in this draft.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, but I don't think there's one who's really separated themselves from the rest of the pack.
I agree with that, but I think they'll separate themselves more towards you. But we're going to wrap it up there tonight. Going to be a quick and easy show, talking a lot of NBA, talking some baseball. We'll break down more hockey in depth, some other sports in depth next week on another edition, episode 122 Championship Rings. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for Ungar to the Max, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. I'm Brandon Woods, the host of Brandon's World. We'll see you next Tuesday, and peace.
Salute to you. Happy Cinco de Mayo, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Happy Cinco de Mayo.